My parents took my stepsister's side after she sabotaged my wedding. She stole my venue, shredded my dress, and they still called me the problem. I stayed quiet until the media got involved. What they saw on TV made them panic. But it was already too late to undo what I did next. I'm Olivia, and my stepsister Rachel has always been the golden child. My dad remarried when I was 10, and from the moment Rachel and her mother entered our lives, I was an afterthought. Rachel got whatever she wanted, whether it was my toys as a kid or my parents' support as an adult. When I got engaged to my fiancé Ethan, I stupidly thought that maybe, just maybe, Rachel would be happy for me. Oh, how wrong I was. It all started with little things. Rachel made passive-aggressive comments about my ring, saying Ethan could have done better. She scoffed at my dress, saying it was too basic. I shrugged it off. It wasn't worth the fight, right? Then she announced her engagement to a guy she had only been dating for 4 months, and her wedding date, the exact same day as mine. At first, I thought it was a joke. "Rachel, you know that's my wedding day, right?" I asked. She smirked. "Yeah, but I figured one of us should have a wedding worth attending." I looked at my dad and stepmom, expecting them to shut this down, but nope. They beamed at her like she had just cured cancer. "Well, sweetheart," my dad said, "you know Rachel has always dreamed of a spring wedding." I nearly choked. "I had booked my venue over a year ago. You can't just," I started, but my stepmom cut in. "I think you should be more understanding, Olivia. You've always been so competitive with Rachel. Maybe it's time you let her have a moment." I was speechless. Ethan, bless his heart, was livid, but I just walked away. I wasn't going to let her get to me. Then came the real sabotage. A week before my wedding, I got a call from my venue. They apologized and said there had been a double booking. I was confused until they mentioned Rachel's name. "She booked?" I whispered. "She booked the venue under her name, and since she paid in full yesterday, we assumed—" I hung up and stormed to my dad's house, shaking with rage. "You let her steal my venue?" I demanded. Rachel smirked from the couch. "You really should have paid in full earlier, Liv." I turned to my dad. "You knew about this?" He sighed. Rachel was willing to pay more, and the venue needed the money. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You mean you paid for it?" Unbelievable. I left before I could scream. I'd find a solution, even if it meant getting married in my backyard. But Rachel wasn't done. The night before my wedding, I stayed at a hotel. When I got back to my apartment the next morning to pick up my dress, my stomach dropped. The bag was on the floor, the zipper ripped open, and my dress? It had been slashed to shreds. I don't even know how I moved for the next few minutes. I just knew one thing. Rachel was behind this. Then my phone rang. It was my dad. "Honey, Rachel told us what happened. You should really let go of this grudge." My vision went red. "You think I did this?" I asked. He sighed. "Well, she said you were acting out and you always did have a temper. That was it. That was the moment I knew my family had chosen her. I was done." I wiped my tears, squared my shoulders, and did something no one saw coming. When they saw me on the news the next day, they came running to my house. Too bad for them, I had already moved on. I should have been breaking down, crying, screaming, but instead, I felt calm. Rachel thought she had won. My dad and stepmom thought they could brush this under the rug, but they had no idea what was coming. I made a few calls. I wasn't going to let Rachel ruin my wedding. I was going to turn this whole disaster into something they would never forget. First, I needed a new venue. I was lucky. One of Ethan's friends owned a beautiful private estate. When I explained what happened, he insisted we use it for free. That was one problem solved. Second, the dress. There was no fixing what Rachel had done, but I wasn't about to let her see me fall apart. I called a designer boutique in town and told them my story. One of the employees gasped. "Wait, you're the bride whose dress got destroyed? I saw the pictures on social media. That's insane." "Pictures? Oh yeah," she said. "Someone posted about it in a wedding drama Facebook group. It's blowing up. I hadn't even thought about that, but if my story was already spreading, why not use it to my advantage?" Within hours, a local designer offered to make me a dress overnight. She even sent a message, "Let's make you look like a queen, free of charge." At this point, I almost wanted to send Rachel flowers for being so evil. It was working in my favor. Now for the real fun. Rachel had stolen my venue, but she wasn't expecting what came next. See, while she was busy playing bride, she hadn't noticed that someone had tipped off the local news about a bridezilla who sabotaged her own sister's wedding. Guess who loved a juicy scandal? The media. The morning of her wedding, Rachel woke up to see her name everywhere. Bride accused of sabotaging sister's wedding. Stole venue, ruined dress. There were photos of my shredded gown, texts from mutual friends calling her out, and even screenshots of her bragging in a group chat about how I deserved it. By noon, Rachel the Wicked Bride was trending. But the best part? Her dream venue, my venue, canceled on her. Turns out, they didn't love being at the center of a viral scandal. She was furious. I heard later that she showed up in her dress, screaming at the staff. They told her to leave before they called security. Her guests, seeing the drama unfold live, started bailing. While all of this was happening, I was having the wedding of my dreams. The estate was stunning, the new dress was even better than my original, and everyone who actually loved me was there. The cherry on top, a famous influencer had shared my story and a few local celebrities showed up just to support me. So when my dad and stepmom finally came knocking at my door, looking panicked, I already knew why. Rachel was begging them to fix the mess. The golden child had finally lost, and now they needed me. Too bad for them. I opened the door, standing there in my stunning gown, glowing with happiness, and I just smiled. "Sorry," I said sweetly. "I don't think I know you." Then I shut the door in their faces. It was satisfying. The look of absolute shock on my dad's face, priceless. For years they had treated me like a second-class citizen in my own family. Now they wanted to act like I was the villain for refusing to clean up Rachel's mess? Absolutely not. Ethan, my wonderful actual family, wrapped his arms around me as I walked back inside. "How does it feel?" he asked, smirking. I grinned. Like justice. But oh, reader, this was far from over. Over the next few days, Rachel's life imploded. First, her fiancé, remember him? Yeah, turns out he wasn't thrilled to find out that his bride-to-be was trending for being a vindictive psycho. He dumped her over text. According to my sources, Asaka mutual friends who couldn't wait to spill the tea, he wrote something along the lines of, "I don't know who you are anymore. I'm embarrassed to be associated with you. I hope the attention was worth it." Rachel lost it. She tried calling, texting, even showing up at his job, but he wanted nothing to do with her. Then came the job situation. See, Rachel worked in event planning, weddings. She had been bragging for years about how she wanted to open her own business, how she was going to be the next big name in high-end wedding planning. Well, guess what? Not only did her employer fire her for unprofessional conduct, but her name was toxic in the industry. No one wanted to work with the woman who ruined her own sister's wedding. Venues blacklisted her, clients pulled out. She became that name in wedding circles, synonymous with drama and disaster. Poetic, really. The parents tried to make amends. You'd think my dad and stepmom would finally wake up, right? Realize they had backed the wrong horse? Nope. Instead, they doubled down. A week after the wedding, I got a long, dramatic email from my dad. "Olivia, we need to talk. I don't know where we went wrong, but the way you treated us at your wedding was unacceptable. You humiliated your sister, and now she's struggling. Don't you think you've made your point?" Oh, this was rich. I took a deep breath and typed back, "Dad, where you went wrong. That started when you let Rachel walk all over me for years, when you watched her steal my venue, ruin my dress, and did nothing. You don't get to play the victim now. If you want to talk, you can start by apologizing. Until then, I have nothing to say to you." I hit send. The response? It took months for my dad to reach out again, and by then, well, things had changed in a way they never saw coming. A few months passed, and my life had never been better. Ethan and I had settled into our new home, and I was surrounded by people who actually loved and supported me. My job was going great, and I was still getting messages from strangers who had followed my story online, cheering me on. Rachel, on the other hand, was in free fall. After her fiancé dumped her, she tried playing the victim, spinning the narrative that she was just trying to teach me a lesson and that I had overreacted. No one was buying it. Her ex-fiancé blocked her, and when she tried dating again, well, let's just say Google wasn't her friend. Her name was still attached to the wedding disaster. Anyone who searched for her would find articles, social media posts, and screenshots exposing her for exactly who she was. She even tried making a new wedding planning business under a fake name, but that fell apart when someone recognized her and blasted her online. My dad and stepmom weren't doing much better. With Rachel practically unemployable and still living at home, they were stuck footing the bill for everything. I heard through a relative that my dad had started complaining about ungrateful daughters and how I had ruined the family. Funny, considering I was the one they abandoned. Then one evening, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number, but something told me to pick up. "Hello?" A pause, then a voice I hadn't heard in a long time. "Olivia, it's Dad." I let the silence stretch out, waiting for him to speak. He sighed. I think we need to talk about everything." I should have felt something. Relief, anger, sadness, but all I felt was a strange sort of finality, like I had already moved on. I didn't answer right away. Instead, I glanced across the room at Ethan, who was watching me with quiet support, and at the framed wedding photo on the wall, the one where I was truly happy, surrounded by the people who actually cared. Then, I took a slow breath and said, "I don't think we do." And I hung up. The silence after I hung up felt heavier than I expected. I sat there for a moment, my phone still in my hand, my heart steady. It wasn't like I thought I'd feel guilty. I knew I didn't owe my father anything, but there was a strange weight in realizing just how final that moment was. I had spent my entire life trying to prove my worth to him, trying to earn the love and approval he so freely handed to Rachel. And now, for the first time, I wasn't chasing it. I wasn't waiting for him to finally see me, to finally choose me. I had chosen myself. Ethan sat next to me on the couch, his arm resting against mine. He didn't push, didn't ask what was said. He just let me sit in the quiet. After a deep breath, I turned to him and smiled. "Let's go get some ice cream." That was it. No deep conversation, no long analysis of my father's intentions or Rachel's downfall, just a simple decision to do something for myself with the person who actually mattered. And that was when I knew I had truly moved on. But my father and Rachel? They weren't done. Not yet. A week later, I got an email from my stepmother that I almost deleted without reading, but curiosity got the better of me. I clicked it open, expecting some guilt trip, some demand that I fix things. Instead, it was long, rambling, and filled with passive-aggressive undertones so thick I could practically hear her voice in my head. "Olivia, I don't know why you're doing this. Your father is devastated. Rachel has been suffering enough, and it's cruel of you to abandon your family when we need to be sticking together. Your wedding stunt already embarrassed us, and you've made things so much worse by refusing to talk. We are still your family, no matter how much you try to erase us. I don't know if this is your way of punishing us, but it's childish. Let's just put all this behind us. Come to dinner next Sunday, let's talk like adults." I scoffed, shaking my head as I read it. They wanted to talk now? After everything? After they let Rachel walk all over me for years, after they abandoned me on my wedding day, after they chose her over me again and again, they suddenly wanted to act like we were just one big happy family? And what was this about my wedding stunt? Did they really believe that I was the one who caused a scene? I could already picture that dinner. My dad sitting stiffly at the table, my stepmom clutching her wine glass, Rachel sulking like a spoiled child who still thought she deserved an apology. They wouldn't want to talk. They would want me to forgive them without them taking any accountability. I wasn't interested. I showed the email to Ethan, who read it over and exhaled sharply through his nose, shaking his head. "They're unbelievable," he said. "I know," I muttered. "I don't even know why I opened it." "Are you going to respond?" he asked. I thought about it for a moment, then smirked. "Yeah, I think I will." I sat down at my laptop and typed out my response carefully. "Stepmom, I appreciate the invitation, but I have no interest in pretending that everything is fine. You and Dad made it clear where you stood when you supported Rachel after she tried to ruin my wedding. I'm not the one who abandoned my family, you abandoned me. If you actually want to have an honest conversation, then you need to start by taking accountability for what happened. Until then, I see no reason to attend a dinner where I will undoubtedly be guilt-tripped and manipulated into forgiving something that has never even been acknowledged. Take care." I hit send and closed my laptop, feeling nothing but relief. There was no hesitation, no second-guessing, just the absolute certainty that I had finally set a boundary I wasn't willing to cross. Ethan pulled me into his arms, kissing the top of my head. "I'm proud of you," he murmured. I smiled against his chest. "I'm proud of me too." But if I thought that was the last I'd hear from them, I was dead wrong. Because 2 weeks later, Rachel pulled one last stunt, and this time she had everything to lose. I should have known Rachel wouldn't take my silence as an answer. She never did. For 2 blissfully quiet weeks, I let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, my father, stepmother, and Rachel had finally gotten the message, that they would stew in their own misery, complain about me behind closed doors, and ultimately let it go. I was wrong. It started with an Instagram message from an old friend I hadn't talked to in years. "Hey Olivia, I just saw something weird and thought you should know. Is Rachel seriously trying to pass off your wedding as hers?" My stomach twisted as I stared at the message. What the hell was she talking about? I opened the link she had sent me, and immediately, my blood ran cold. It was Rachel's Instagram, a brand new account under a slightly different username than the one she usually used, probably because her real one was still getting dragged through the mud. But the pictures were my wedding, my venue, my decorations, my cake, my dress. She had taken the professional photos from my wedding, the ones Ethan and I had posted online, and was pretending they were hers. I clicked through the posts in shock, reading the captions that made my jaw drop. "The most beautiful day of my life. Still can't believe how perfect this day was. So grateful for all my family and friends who made it magical. Marrying the love of my life was everything I dreamed of and more. Thank you to everyone who supported us." I felt sick. She was insane. It wasn't just that she was posting my wedding photos, it was that she was trying to rewrite history, to erase the very public disaster she had caused, and pretend that she had been the one standing at the altar, that she had been the bride, that the family and friends who abandoned me had been there for her. The worst part? People were falling for it. There were dozens of comments congratulating her, people saying she looked beautiful, that the wedding was so elegant, that they were so happy for her. I scrolled faster, my hands shaking. It wasn't just strangers. There were comments from mutual friends, from extended family, from people who had ignored me on my actual wedding day. I felt a rush of white-hot anger. She wasn't just stealing my wedding. She was trying to rewrite history in a way that made her the center of attention, that made her look like the perfect bride with a perfect life, while I was supposed to just disappear. Not a chance. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to think. Reacting emotionally wouldn't help. I needed to be smart about this. So, I took screenshots of everything, every photo, every caption, every comment. I made sure to save proof that Rachel was not only lying but that other people who had chosen her over me, were going along with it. And then I decided it was time to return the favor. If Rachel wanted to live in a delusion where she was the perfect bride, I was going to make sure everyone knew the truth. I just needed to make sure it hurt. I took my time crafting my post. I wasn't just going to call Rachel out. I was going to obliterate her. First, I sent the screenshots to a few of my real friends, people who had actually been there for me, and asked them to quietly spread the word. Within an hour, the news was already traveling through our social circles like wildfire. Then, I made my move. I opened my Instagram and uploaded a carousel of photos. My wedding photos. But instead of Rachel's fake captions, I wrote the truth. Hey everyone, imagine my surprise when I found out my stepsister decided to steal my wedding photos and pretend they were hers. For those who don't know, Rachel tried to sabotage my wedding by booking the same venue behind my back and even ripping my wedding dress. When my father and stepmother chose to stand by her, I had to face my wedding day alone. But guess what? I still had the best day of my life, because I married the love of my life surrounded by people who actually cared about me. Apparently that wasn't enough for Rachel. Now she's pretending she got married that day, using my photos, my venue, and even my dress. I figured it was only fair to set the record straight. So to everyone who congratulated her, just know she didn't get married. She wasn't even invited. I tagged Rachel's fake account, along with my father and stepmother, and then I sat back and watched the chaos unfold. Within minutes, my notifications exploded. People were commenting, resharing, messaging me with shock and disgust. Some of the same people who had congratulated Rachel were now furiously backpedaling. But the best part? Rachel's fake wedding account disappeared within the hour. She deleted everything in a panic, probably hoping to escape the humiliation. Too late. Screenshots of her lies were everywhere. People were laughing at her, calling her out, dragging her through the dirt. Some of our mutual friends who had believed her reached out, horrified, trying to apologize to me for their part in it. Even distant relatives who had ignored my actual wedding started messaging me, trying to act like they had been on my side all along. I ignored them. Rachel tried to call me. I let it ring, spewing out half-hearted excuses. I was just trying to fix my reputation. I didn't respond. She didn't deserve a response. And my father? Oh, he finally called too. This time, his voice was furious. "How dare you humiliate your sister like this?" he seethed. I smiled. "You mean like how she humiliated me? Like how you stood by and let her ruin my wedding?" "This is different," he said. "No, Dad, it's not. And guess what? I don't care what you think anymore." Then I hung up. That was the last time I ever spoke to him. Rachel's reputation never recovered. She became a running joke among our mutual circles, a cautionary tale of what happens when you take things too far. Her social media presence all but disappeared, and she stopped showing up to family events, too ashamed to face everyone. As for me, I moved on with my life, happier than ever. I had a husband who loved me, real friends who supported me, and the sweet, sweet satisfaction of knowing that I had taken back everything she tried to steal from me. And that was the real happily ever after.